I want to ask you a partisan question, and I don't want to put you on the spot because I think your advice is more nonpartisan. I mean, people of every political stripe can respect the Constitution, respect the Charter of Rights, respect national sovereignty. And I think, by the way, the lockdowns during the pandemic, there were people in all parts of the spectrum who had reasons to oppose it. So I like to think of you as nonpartisan. But in many ways, the solution to the current crisis would involve, in our system, replacing the current prime minister with the leader of the opposition. And I'd like to ask you, first of all, for your assessment of Pierre Poilievre as a prospective prime minister, and second of all, your prediction. Do you think he's got a shot? I think there's a chance we'll have an election this year. Polls show that the Conservatives are actually leading, not by a lot, but leading. What are your thoughts on Poilievre? Would he be a good PM? And do you think he's got a chance?
I had hoped that he would, somebody coming after Mr. O'Toole would pick up the mantle. But I have been very disappointed. He called me when he was running for the leadership and asked for my support, and I refused to provide it to him because I was, at that point, disappointed in how he did not participate in the truckers' convoy, where I flew down to there and spoke and had meetings with Termaire Leash and the board and so on, and was very strongly in support of what they were doing, especially after I got there and realized that this was a very peaceful civil disobedience, constitutionally ratified protest. And so I was very, very disappointed. And I found out from some of the people from Saskatchewan and Alberta who were part of trying to get a meeting with the government as a delegation, a truckers delegation, to talk about their grievances, that at the same time they were trying to get meetings with the Conservatives and the NDP, and they were refused. And so I could not support his leadership or get involved with the Conservative Party again, Conservative Party of Canada, because of that. Since he became leader, I have made the comment that it's really, blue suits with a very reddish tint. When the lady from the European Parliament came over here,
Christine Anderson, right?
Yeah, when she came over here and met with a number of the Conservative MPs, and then was lambasted, almost using Trudeau's words, Mr. Poilievre, to do that, it showed a sign of poor leadership. This is where he really could have shone brightly amongst those who want to support him and who want him to be prime minister. And he failed that test badly, very badly. And then thirdly, I was really disappointed in how we approached the CBC by writing Twitter, which only lasted a few days, and Twitter took off the designation of being a government-appointed institution. This was a diversion. What the leader of the opposition should do, Mr. Poilievre, is go into the House of Commons tomorrow and put a resolution on the floor of the House of Commons saying that we should get rid of public broadcasting in this country and allow a vote to occur so that then the people who are conservative-minded and want to support him can see that he's really serious. The bill or resolution will fail because the NDP and Liberals will vote against it, but we'll clearly see where they are now, and we'll clearly see where the Conservatives are. Mm-hmm. So people will have a lot more confidence in voting for the Conservative Party if he acted in those ways. The other thing he could do tomorrow, as I said in my Magna Carta, is he could go into the House of Commons and propose a change to the Conflict of Interest Act, whereby no MP who has been found guilty of violating the Conflict of Interest legislation by either the Conflict of Interest Commissioner or Court of Law cannot sit in the House. So those are two things he could do tomorrow to really demonstrate to Canadians that he's on their side.
Right.
And he has not done it.
Now, your co-plaintiff in the airline mandate case is Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party. And we have quite a strong relationship with Maxime Bernier. We interview him a lot. We find him very interesting. We found him quite principled on a lot of matters, including during the lockdown. And I think we interview him every month or two. And I admire, there's a lot to like about Maxime Bernier, but if I have to be completely pragmatically, coldly candid, he cannot form the next government. And even when he had a seat, when he had the one seat for his party, he didn't break through. And there were a lot of reasons for that, including they in my view, illegally kept him out of the leaders' debate. There were a lot of other reasons.
Yeah.
But, and let me tell you this as someone who admires Maxime Bernier and generally supports him, I wish it were otherwise, but I do not think that Maxime Bernier can mathematically be the next government. So to me, there's really only two mathematical choices, Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre. And those are the two pragmatic choices. And therefore I will, between those choices, choose Pierre Poilievre. Would you do differently?
Yes, I will vote for Maxime Bernier in a flash because I'm looking long term. We have to change the whole structure of this country. We can do a lot within the existing constitution, like I just proposed, as it relates to CBC, as it relates to tightening up the conflict of interest legislation, as it relates to the political parties publishing their audited financial statements of their party every year, as it relates to sovereignty and signing trade agreements and so on. We can do a lot inside the existing constitution, but we need to do more. And therefore, we have to start somewhere to begin that reform. And so I'm looking long term. And long term, the policies that are on the PPC website today, on Mr. Bernier's website, most align with my views now as a Canadian and as a former First Minister. They align most with me. I see what has happened to bilingualism, biculturalism. I see what's happening to being very, very flexible in trade agreements. I see what's happened to our immigration policy where it hasn't matched our economic policy and which has gotten out of hand. And so we have to start somewhere. And so in however many years I got left, as long as Mr. Bernier sticks with those principles that he has actually put in writing, and by the way, his expenses are right there on his website as well, his financial statements, which I'm asking the other parties to do, I will begin anew to assist him in getting, look, if he could get 3 or 4 seats and to have to be interviewed by the press to start the ball rolling, I think that would be a really good start. Mm-hmm. And having him part of the national conversation and his views could really assist. So you start small, you get a couple of seats or whatever, you get a chance to get your ideas out there, and that could lead to, over the next 2 elections, to them being a very big political force. Mm-hmm. So you got to start somewhere. The Canada is broken. Our democracy has been lost. Our charter has been broken, and therefore this is a long-term project, and we must start now with honesty and real pure system to begin rebuilding our nation. And I can't think of any better way to do it practically than through the PPC.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.